Hey, everybody, thank you all for attending this Post Community Council, the monthly meeting for the 9th of July 2024. Before I go on to the main agenda, can I just ask people to maybe just quickly introduce themselves, just because there's who you are?
Sure. We're the couple of people.
It's not the way that you're here.
Yeah, we're recording this meeting for two items that are on it. One to do with disabled access in Mumbles, and the other one to do with 5G. And we are a local outfit that have been doing that for years. This my husband's here, Steve.
Hello.
Okay.
I'm Stuart Ayres.
I'm sorry, Chair. Who are we? Sorry, Chair. Who are we talking to? I can't see them, and I don't know who they are.
My name.
Breaking up a bit.
I can't. I'm not going to stand up because I just have to.
It's a bit difficult because we've got everybody in the room. We can't get everybody on the sort of camera. But you represent a particular organisation, is that?
We're Able News Media. We are
Able News Media.
A&M, and we've been following the 5G story in Swansea now for about 4 years. We've made about 4 videos, I think, specifically about Swansea, and other videos as well that you may have heard of. Have you heard of one called Ignore It? No. That's quite well thought of. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm Stuart Ayres. I put the item on the disability, local resident of disability access.
Okay, thank you very much. Phil.
I'm Phil Slater from the Males Friends and Residents Group. I've got an item on the agenda to talk about 5G and the proposed looking at investment.
Okay then. So if I move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Ian?
Yes, Chair, I've got 3 apologies. Councillor Tim Zoo, Councillor Phil Keaton and Councillor Sarah Keaton.
Okay. Any declarations of interest?
There's one of the items, there's a grant application from Mumbles Yacht Club.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to go with this, so I declare an interest.
You know that, please, Ian?
Yes. So I want to be able to vote on that.
Okay. Okay then, so if we go straight into the point at the beginning of the agenda, which is public participation. So members of the public may take the opportunity to ask questions or make representations and give the evidence on items on the agenda. So the first one on the agenda is Dr. Stuart Ayres, and you've got a letter in your packet in relation to disabled access around the thing.
Yeah.
So Stuart, I hand over to you. And just to let you know, I'll give you about 5 to 7 minutes. And see if anybody else.
Okay, so my understanding is there may be some budget that the council owns around disabled parking, and the proposal is to move that over to disabled access instead of drop curbs as far as that can be afforded on Victoria Avenue where I live. Moved in there 8 weeks ago. I've got a family member who uses electric wheelchair to get around due to a disability, their ability to travel from very far. But it's very difficult to get on and off the street, which is frustrating because once they're off the street, it's quite easy to get around the rest of Mumbles to a great extent. So I don't know what would normally be the case here. I understand both disabled parking and drop curbs are really important. But I would argue that drop curbs are more important to residents. It's not very useful to my family members to drive down the park, say somewhere else in Mumbles. I live to do that because they don't drive. I don't know if it would be appropriate to also share the circumstances of my child, or an adult, whether it be my child. They started to use a wheelchair about 3 years ago and are working very hard to have an independent life. That's why they're not here today, because they're away doing that. But it's frustrating them just getting off the street now is difficult. I mean, being aware that was the case when we moved in, I didn't expect it to be the problem. And certainly had a situation where they've had to travel up and down. They can occasionally get off the road, off the curb, where the curb wants to be particularly low, but it's relying on whether people are parked there. Occasionally let's travel up and down the middle of the street trying to get off the street on the pavement.
I noticed on the letter that you sent in to us that you have been in contact with City and County as well, have you?
Yes. They're supposed to be surveying. I've not been able to get them to come back to me in terms of surveying of the place. They said a few weeks and much longer than that so far. So I don't know what their conclusion has been. So I phoned them. They said they'd book a surveyor. I phoned them again, and they gave the surveyor my number, but he hasn't got back to me on that yet. No, he or she hasn't got back to me until they're doing the survey. From inspections, do we align at the top of the road where they would fit perfectly well? So it's not a practical problem. I understand it's a budget problem.
Okay, has anybody got any questions? Will, is that your hand up? Sorry, Pam first, then Will.
We are very mindful of this. I was chair of the committee last year, and we did have money put aside to have to help but one person in every ward as far as drop codes and access was concerned. Unfortunately, at the beginning of our budget this year, we realised that just to stand still, we would have to raise the budget by 45%. And money for this kind of project was one of the things that disappeared. It wasn't that we didn't have a will to help people, it's just that we didn't have any money at all that we were able to help people with. And I would hope that next year, if things improve, we might be able to put it back into the budget. But we have been helping disabled people and with car access over the last few years, but we just ran out of money this year.
You broke up there. Did you say car access?
No. Outside the house, they have access to their house. So we have been trying to help people. Oh, this is lovely. The echo's gone. We have been trying to help people steadfastly over the last few years, but it was one of those things that was a victim in the budget where we just had to cut away every single penny that we could. And I'm afraid the money that was left for disabled access is one of the things that went. Okay. So we are really mindful of it and have been trying to help.
And I do understand, if I can respond. Yeah. Understand that fundamentally it's Swansea Council's responsibility. So I'm asking this council if they have got funds to support that. There is, of course, a responsibility to make reasonable adjustments, including anticipatory, and in this case, responsive to the individual's case as well. So that's my understanding of that situation. But it's a request. I'd understood there was an unspent budget, perhaps there isn't, Pam, related to parking spaces. I'm asking that be fired over to this access, because I would argue that's more useful for a local resident than parking.
Okay, I'll come back to that. I'll just bring Will Thomas in.
I think.
Sorry, Pam, go on.
Could I come back? I think Paul is the one to ask for advice on this. There is an underspend budget. There's a list a mile long of people ready to jump on it. I think Paul is the one to advise on this.
Yeah, well, we can refer that on to another based on your representation. Will?
Thanks, Chair. Just to touch on a couple of things first. I mean, Swansea Council, as you all know, has no real budget when it comes to road safety or any disability sort of access improvements, which is very frustrating for myself and the other county councillors. However, we've done a lot out of our community budgets to help people, but the drop curbs are incredibly expensive, and I think they're around £2,000 each at the moment is what the council charge, roughly around that sort of figure. Don't quote me on it. It's either a couple of £100 higher or lower than that. But we've done quite a lot for disability in the area already. We also had we have several meetings, and we've been when I say we, sorry, I mean Francesca and Angela, who are other county councillors. We've had several meetings with Active Travel, which is doing the Newton Link scheme. We're trying to improve the access for disabled people, including crossings, drop curbs where possible, and lots of things there, and trying to expand that out of the direct line, and obviously trying to get every penny we can out of that budget to try and improve those things. So that's the good news. Also, Transforming Towns funding is being looked at Mumbles at the moment. It's again very frustrating how long that's taking. But the Transforming Towns is from the commercial centre, which is Mumbles Rugby Club. We're trying to argue that it's all the way up to the pier at the moment, but at the moment it's Mumbles Rugby Club up Newton Road to roughly the school. What we're able to do there is also try and get funding for things like drop curbs, better access, and trying to improve that top of Newton Road, which is quite well, quite honestly, not fit for walking on. So that's the good news. Obviously, this is slightly out of that scheme, but we will try and argue that it's very close to the active travel scheme. So we've already tried to reach out and try to include the top of this Victoria Avenue in that active travel scheme, and waiting to hear back on that. But my understanding is that there is an underspend. Paul, obviously, as you said, Chair, will confirm it. But my understanding was there is an underspend on the disabled parking bays that we haven't implemented, and that could potentially be via to do this. However, I would say if we do have luck with moving this into the active travel scheme, which will be in place like next April, that it might be a sensible idea to sort of save the community council, what will probably roughly be about £4,000 by waiting a couple of months for that. But any questions, happy to answer, Chair. Thanks.
Pam, did you want to come back in?
Please, yes, please. I know that neither of our West Cross councillors are here today. Sarah's on holiday, I know, and we know Rebecca's on maternity leave. I know that they are looking into these things as well. I can't expound on that because I'm not in that loop very much, but I know that they're very much trying to go down this path as well. What I'm saying is our Mumbles Community Council, all of the county councillors are trying very hard to implement this. But we just don't know how much we've got left. So we're not unsympathetic, but we are frustrated by it as well, I think, as you can tell from hearing what Will has said.
I would just like to come in on that, Stuart, as well. Is that I've tried to negotiate these pavements myself with a wheelchair.
Yeah, of course.
I've got disabled. Well, I did have disabled relatives myself, so I know what a nightmare it is, particularly around by the White Rose there, which was a nightmare with a wheelchair, to be honest. So I think what I'm hearing here is a lot of sympathy. We do realise we've got problems here. Money is always the issue. I think the best thing that we can recommend at the moment is that we will take note of what you said, go back to our RFO, our responsible financial officer, go back to our finance committee, have a look what underspends we've got, and hopefully work with you and others to look at how we can best address the issue that you've raised.
I'm happy to work with that. I mean, the active travel scheme's an interesting one because it sounds like it's access up and down the shopping area. There's shops around, etc., that can't be accessed at the moment at all.
Exactly.
All that sort of thing. So no, I'm not just thinking about Sorrel, I'm also thinking about the fact that.
Let's be honest, let's be honest, we've got to sort of look at it sort of integrated as well, isn't it, all around the community as well. So that's the best way I think that we can proceed at the moment.
I was just going to say in West Cross, I lived in West Cross immediately before moving here, and they've just had a lot of upgrades to a lot of the drop curbs.
Especially at the top shops.
Part of the traffic calming.
Yeah. At the top shops, I live up there as well, and I was
very happy to
yesterday.
I can help look for
a lot better. Will, did you say you want to come back in quickly?
Yeah, just one other thing I did want to touch upon. We did talk about it a number of years ago, but I think we're waiting, and these things take years, unfortunately, especially active travel and transforming towns. But once that is complete or during that process, I think there is some plan to engage with consultation with disability charities to kind of get their feedback on the plan. So just so you know, it's not a closed review, and that is being done as part of the two schemes.
Yeah, so thank you for your submission, Stuart, and keep in contact because we would very much welcome your input.
Just ask, would it be you I'd go through to try and get some response from the surveyors department? Yeah. Right.
You okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
That was like a different outcome today.
Yeah. Okay, so if we move on to point B, which is Phil and Caroline Slater, 5G and the proposed living laboratory test bed. Again, you'll find that you've got some documentation in your meeting pack in relation to this. So if I hand over to you, and as I said, I can give you about 5 to 7 minutes just to give your presentation.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, firstly, for including 5G in the proposed living lab test bed on this agenda. 5G, as you know, is an issue our residents group first brought to your attention some 5 years ago, and is an issue many residents are still very worried about. We trust you've taken the time to read the handout, and are aware that the health and environmental impacts associated with wireless technology will be significantly increased under the proposed 5G Living Lab and test bed. You will have read that over 90% of peer-reviewed studies found evidence of harm. Rather than any shortcomings in the IPNUC guidelines, the massive environmental footprint of 5G, the warnings given by thousands of scientists, medical doctors, the former Director General of the World Health Organization, the former board member of the IPNUC, and the former president of Microsoft Canada, to name but a few. Is it any wonder that a number of 5G masts have already been burnt when government continues to ignore these warnings? The enclosed letters were sent to all 75 Swansea Ward councillors, but most chose not to respond. It should not be left to people like us to question these impacts. So who is ultimately responsible? Many councils and LPAs believe that the UK HSA and Ofcom are ultimately responsible, but in April 2023, Ofcom stated that LPAs should be assessing IPNUC certificates. At present, they are blindly accepting them. And the Welsh Government Planning Dictatorate also stated in December 2020 that the competent authority in this respect is the LPA. So councils and LPAs are ultimately responsible, and you as our councillors and as our community council have a role within the planning process too. As a competent authority under those parts of the European Electronic Communications Code EU directives that are embedded in UK domestic law, LPAs must legally reconcile environmental and public health effects, taking due account of the precautionary principle, and public health is stated as an imperative. However, it's not possible for LPAs to reconcile environmental and public health effects if planning policy states that they should solely rely on the IPNUC certificate, not only due to the fact that the IPNUC does not even consider environmental effects, but due to the many conflicts of interest that exist, the fact that the IPNUC does not assume any responsibility for the information it provides, does not consider long-term exposure, only considers thermal effects, and was ruled as unreliable in the Court of Appeal of Turin. And it's not possible for LPAs to undertake any sort of review without reviewing the exclusion zone diagram. You should be alarmed to see in the example provided that the public exclusion zone actually penetrates into the occupied building, and that's one of the sheets. And you should be even more alarmed that the IPNUC certificate was actually issued in this case, and the fact that the drawing, which was clearly not assessed, states that the information must not, and that's underlined and in red, be sent to the planning departments, a blatant disregard for public health. We know that the IPNUC guidelines fail to protect anyone with a metallic implant. We should be aware that in a recent court case in Cardiff, the judge determined that metallic implants must be considered in the risk reconciliation process. We also know that the IPNUC guidelines fail to protect anyone with electrosensitivity by simply ignoring the condition, despite it being a recognised condition elsewhere. And despite several court rulings that are detailed in the letters within the handout, UK governments have failed to invest in any research. You should be aware there are several people who suffer from the condition with the Mumbles area alone. I was made aware of a further 2 last week, and many more will be equally affected, but as yet have not made the connection. And the numbers will keep on increasing due to the cumulative effects of exposure. Many people are currently living debilitating lives due to exposure to wireless radiation, and the introduction of 5G in the living lab will significantly increase their suffering. How would you feel, for example, if you could no longer visit friends or fat family, go to the pub, go out for a meal, even attend a hospital appointment? And some of these people will be forced to move as a direct effect of the 5G. This is not acceptable. The main driver given for 5G is financial, despite severe doubt being cast on the actual business case for it in a House of Commons research briefing dated only March this year. So ultimately, so residents expect you to support the protection of public health and the environment over profits, and demanding that planning policy fully complies with all legal requirements and considers all evidence and all sections of society in the risk reconciliation process. So thank you for your time and allowing me to read that out.
Thank you very much for that, Bill. I'll hand it over. Pam, do you want to say something?
This is quite timely, actually. I'm not sure if I heard right where you said it is beholden on us to support this. I just happened to be around with a big gang of people last Thursday, Friday, and it came up as a conversation. Those who were in COVID were having to work from home are complaining that not that they can't run their businesses, but they can't keep a job because they don't have proper access to their computers because the connections aren't good enough. Pensioners are saying that these days you've got to have a mobile phone. But what they're saying is they can't afford to have a mobile phone and a landline, so they've got to go for the mobile phone instead. But they're having to pay for a landline because they can't get the proper coverage on their mobile phone. So there is a lot to think about, and people's livelihoods and safety in their own home, and them feeling safe and connected to society and their families. I think that's an important thing that has to be considered as well. I'm just putting before you the opinions of other people in the community, and what they were saying is we need more 5G masks so that we can be better linked up and have a better way of living and working in West Cross. I'm not taking sides, I'm just debating some of the opinions from other people.
Okay,
thank you.
Respond to that, and then break that limit.
Firstly, Pam, on your first point made there that residents are saying, you do not need a wireless connection. A wired connection is a more stable connection. You get a better download speed. So you do not need wireless within the house. You can operate a mobile phone on an Ethernet connection too. Now, the point of going over to a digital phone, say that means that when the power goes down, you can't use your landline. It's just crazy, and it's just purely driven by profits, and they're sidelining all the safety and the
I'm sorry, these people weren't being motivated by profits. These people were being motivated by what they have to contend with in their ordinary daily life, including some people in their 80s who were trying to cope with it. And I have to tell you, as everybody else on this council knows, once you start talking technically, it goes straight over my head. Because I'm hopeless at it. So I'm just telling you what other people have said, how the lack of connections are affecting their lives. But thank you very much for coming back.
And Phil, I just want to say, I really don't think this is a platform for the exchange of views, right? This is just for sharing information, and for us to decide in where we take things from there, okay? So I'll hand over to Helen now.
Yeah. So thank you, Phil, for coming. And just for everyone to know, so I have written to oppose the 5G masts in just to the conflict of interest. So I'm not an expert in any of this, not either, obviously, but when I read the UK government, I think the thing is that this is all being driven at an international level, a national level, a Welsh Government level, a Swansea Council level, and it seems unstoppable, doesn't it? Because it just all seems in this direction. But when I was reading the UK government guidance sheet on 5G, I took away from that this isn't primarily providing Wi-Fi, it's provided a different sort of infrastructure. And I just feel it's a massive slippery slope, because it's not just the carbon emissions. You know, we all use IT, isn't it, as let's use IT, it's going to save us carbon emissions. The carbon emissions associated with this structure are so massive, they're bigger than a country. I think they're bigger than the Netherlands now. When you think of what the Netherlands have to do to report their carbon emissions, who's reporting on behalf of this growing industry. And I just feel as a mother, this is a huge slippery slope. I feel for young people, for old people, for lonely people, for people who want to get connected, I would not encourage them to get connected via the internet. I feel get out to meet people. And, you know, a lot of this is all about coming behind AI. That's the whole industry around AI. And, you know, when you think of the gaming, who's got young kids here? You're too young, really, but kids,
Well, they are into yeah.
yeah, it's the gaming industry around this, and you know, AI and all of this. It's just so growing, and it's so concerning for young people. And I feel if people want to connect, they've got to put their phones down, get off the internet, and they've got to go out and talk to people. And it's easy for us to have an excuse, or we don't need to run these events because, you know, we've got you know, people are connecting on the internet. I just feel it's a slippery slope, and someone's got to stand up and say, hang on a minute, we're all just sleepwalking into it. And so I know we've had discussions in Mails, you know, Amelia, myself, Phil and others about what can a community council really do. And you do feel it just going along with an international tidal wave of support for this. But I feel that, you know, you should put your hand up and say, we don't really know what we're doing. And it is worrying, and there are drawbacks to it. This is not all a plus. Yeah. So that's why I feel concerned, and that's why I did, you know, in my little minor role, write to the council to say I wasn't supporting a master mail, which went ahead. It was all presumed development, so went ahead, and it looks dreadful.
Yeah, and this is exactly the points that you're making. This is exactly why the community council can act as a platform for airing these concerns. Will?
Thanks, Chair. And sorry I couldn't be there tonight, but we have spoken on email before. So, I mean, obviously, as you said, county councillors and community councillors, it is very frustrating when we hear about these being implemented. Obviously, the health of constituents and ourselves as well should be the most important thing. We are always battered off with, you know, the fact that there was a infrastructure bill. I think the Parliament went through Parliament a few years ago, and that couldn't be argued against. And, you know, every time I've brought something up, it's always battered away by the planners. So it's frustrating for myself and us. We've got a couple of these masts in our ward. My question though is, with the emergence of Starlink and other sort of I don't know what you'd call it really, out of atmosphere Wi-Fi. What's the sort of first science behind that? Is it better or worse than the current masts?
Is there any knowledge on that, Phil?
Well, see, I don't have any expertise within this field, but having read a couple of papers on the Starlink, it's the cumulative effects that the companies do not consider. And there's a little village or town, I think it's in Canada. They don't have mobile masts there, but they all have Starlink. So one house will have like the satellite beamed down to its house. Now that goes far beyond the actual house, and that will overlap the neighbouring house, and the neighbour has it, which overlaps his neighbour's house. So you may have 10, 20 of these directional beams which are overlapping your house. And that town has had significant problems with health, livestock dying, crops, and things like that. So the science is still in a very early stage there. So I wouldn't say that is any better than the road that we're heading down. Potentially worse.
I do have some knowledge about Starlink.
I'll go on then.
I chair the funding committee for the National Radio Astronomy Facility, which I didn't expect to come up today. I can't comment for what 5G does health-wise, but I would say that the radio interference as well as the optical interference is comparable with 5G networks from the point of view of radio astronomy, which is more sensitive. So the two things, if there are health effects, potentially have the same impact, I believe.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, please, Chair. If I could just ask Helen, the current mast that you have in the mails, is that 4G?
4G, and there's an application that hasn't gone in yet, as it hasn't been constructed.
They haven't actually put the mast in yet, but the planning.
But you have got a mast in the mail.
Yeah, No, none of the local residents were consulted on the 4G mast. It just appeared on site.
Yeah,
And then
well,
an
this is,
application-
sorry to interrupt you, Phil. That's the point that Will Thomas was making, that there is no requirement to consult.
Yeah.
They can just do it.
Yeah.
And
As long as it's within a certain height, there is a restriction on it. As long as it doesn't exceed, as long as it doesn't exceed.
similar scenario up at Pickett Mead, it just appeared. It was just there, and people were looking at, a reasonable outlook, and all of a sudden there was this column just appeared. It's not as if we haven't tried. We have raised and discussed these things previously.
But the fact that we've got them, sorry to cut across, got them there now, it's really hard to then, because you've got a 4G,
Yeah.
what's the difference with a 5G? So
Well,
it all just feels.
There is a difference, quite obviously,
Can I just-
about that.
Francesca, then, please.
Yeah, not to add to the debate of things, but firstly to thank Phil as well, because unless something like this is put under our nose really, and I know I've met Phil a few months ago, it's been really interesting, and I know we're a different hat, we've been doing a bit of research behind the scenes, and it's quite interesting, and equally resident safety should be paramount. But like you say, once it has been put in place, it's very hard. You are battered off with, it still conforms under a certain height and sort of the visual aspect. So it's very, very difficult. So, but I will say I've spoken to people in different wards throughout Swansea recently who have had the same sort of thing where it's appeared. They haven't had any notice. So I think people are now, their ears are pricking up. They are a lot more alert to this happening in their own area. So I think it's only people like Phil in all dotted across Swans that will make that difference.
Rob?
What response have you had from the ward councillor, Chris? Because he's going to have more pull than we do, really, because we can give an opinion to city council on planning things, but they don't have to listen to us. He, being a city councillor, is probably going to have more pull than us.
Yeah, well, Chris is 100% behind not having 5G within the ward, and he's very worried about the environmental effects of it. But let's say the statement that I made that we all have a role to play, we ward councillors, we will have notification from the telecoms firm looking for the mast up, so you can make representations then. And if a planning application goes in for a new mast, then you can obviously object to it within the Mumbles area here.
Richard?
Yes, thank you for this. It's quite interesting. Some years ago, I was at a social event, and we'd all had the same jobs, working on antennas. And 3/4 of us had very similar serious illnesses. Nothing's proven, but it's very suspicious. And there's more and more evidence coming out all the time, as you said, and others, but the negative health links to various antennas. And as I say, we are, without more research, we are sleepwalking into a problem, perhaps. Thank you.
Well, okay, well, thank you very much for your representation. I've got to think of a way forward here now. Exactly the point that you've made there. We have got a planning committee. Well, we're re-establishing a planning committee on the community council. The point that has been raised, and I think that's a very valid point as well, is that we've got to be pragmatic here. Is that we're pushing against the tide, really, where with a community council that will be going up against national policy, European policy.
Yes.
European policy, Welsh government policy, and all that. But at the same time, that doesn't negate, making your voice heard. But at the same time, let's be realistic here. So my proposal is, going forward, we take on board what you're saying, we take on board the views, and a number of other councillors have raised the point as well. I think it's important for us as community councillors to try and garner views from our community around us as well. What is the general sort of consensus? And I would recommend you to do the same as well, to be honest. And then when proposals come in, we flag them up we ask questions, we look for evidence, and we take it from there. But at the same time, we've got to be mindful, as like what Rob says, even if we say we don't want this mast, as a community council, they will just turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have it.
Look, can I just
Yeah.
So when you go out to the public and you garner what their thoughts are, most people have been subliminally sold this for 20, 30 years now. So like Pam was saying, some of them, they want a better connection within the house.
Yeah.
They have to be made aware of the facts first, and then they can make an informed decision. If you just ask them, do you want a better coverage, then they're going to say
No,
yes.
but okay then, but maybe the way we need to stimulate the debate there.
Is make them aware of
Yeah.
the environmental safety issues.
And that there are concerns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just because we may not affect change doesn't mean that we shouldn't put our hands up to call for change.
No, I'm not, that's the point I really wanted to make, right? But all I'm saying, let's be mindful that we're a small community council in West Wales, and that we could be up against, big multinationals and sort of stuff like that. But that does not negate the fact that, that we have got a voice. So with that in mind, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you for everything else. And if that, can we move on to the next point on the agenda? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So if we move on to point 4, which you approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of June 2024. Again, you will find these in your pack. Danny. If we go through page 1. It's about the presentation by Sunny Khan from the Big Climate Leap. Board Chairs report. Financial reports, page 2, page 3, page 4. Unless there's any questions, are we happy to accept those minutes? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Sorry, I do have a question.
Sorry.
Martin, I do have a question. It's just a clarification of point 10. That the picnic benches have already been agreed. That list is already with Kerry, and she is currently arranging with Swansea Council for them to be taken to the places that have already been agreed.
Yes, to be honest, I have
done
seen.
a year ago.
Yeah, and I have seen these benches already moved in, to be honest. So, Ian, can you note that, please? That's point 10 of the minutes.
Yeah, Kerry has confirmed that she's got the list from all councillors.
Yes, I think you. Yeah, I think you are 100%. As I said, I have noticed the benches are moved in now. Okay, so bearing that in mind, are we happy to accept these minutes as fair record of that meeting? All in favour? Thank you. So if we move on to point 5, which is the clerk's report.
I haven't got a clerk's report this month, Chair. Obviously, the clerks have been away for the last few days.
Okay, so we'll move on to point 6, Chair's report. Right. So the month of June started off with a twinning visit from Henbont to Mumbles. There were a number of events held during the visit organised by the Mumbles Twinning Association. The 2 highlights of the visit from a civic perspective were the reception at the Mansion House, hosted by the Mayor of Swansea, and a quiz night held at the Yacht Club. These events were very well attended by both visitors and representatives of MCC. Both events were very enjoyable evenings, and it proved to be a great opportunity to build on and celebrate the relationships that have been built up by our twinning partners in Brittany over 25 years. From a civic perspective, it was very interesting to meet my counterpart from Henbont, Laura Marshall, to discuss with her the respective histories of our communities and what we saw as our hopes and aspirations and challenges going forward. I hope that the success of this visit and the history of 25 years of cooperation between our respective communities can be used as the basis of an even stronger civic engagement between Henbont and Mumbles. And I think we should all be grateful to the Twinning Association of Mumbles for the historical groundwork that they have done in establishing this relationship. Later on the month, on the 15th, we had the Mumbles Fest. I think we can safely say that Mumbles Fest has now become an integral part of the annual social diary of our community. It is something that certainly certain people look forward to every year. I am again very pleased to report that this year's festival was a great success. Although, as is often par for the course in our part of the world, the weather was not perfect, in no way did the intermittent rain showers dampen spirits. And right from the very first act through to the last, there was a real buzz about the event. This year, as every year, there were things to reflect on and lessons to be learned. But generally, as a council staff and councillors alike, I think we can confidently pat ourselves on the back as yet again a job well done and a successful Mumbles Fest pulled off, which in itself is no mean feat. From a personal perspective, I just wanted to observe that one of the most inspirational aspects of the festival was to see councillors, staff and volunteers working together with such a positive attitude. For me, at least, this positive attitude rubbed off in contributing to making it a truly memorable and inspirational day. I want to use this chair's report to particularly thank all those staff and councillors who worked so hard to make the event a success on the day, with a particular mention for Claire, Rob and Ange and their particular focus on the event. As we head to a summer recess where hopefully things get a little quieter for a while, I want to use this opportunity to extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to staff and councillors alike, just generally in helping us to achieve all that we have in the past years, but also for the personal support extended to me in the role as chair, particularly over the past few weeks. Okay, yeah, any questions? So if we move on to financial reports now, please.
Okay, thanks, Chair. This month's finance report is with the pack. The first just over 3 pages is the invoices that have been paid this month. A lot of them, as mentioned, are due to Mumbles Fest. Obviously, the services I've had with performers who were on stage on that day. Total without VAT is just short of 52,000. And also then I show the Barclaycard purchases for June 2024, just over £400. So, any questions on the expenditure in June?
No.
Okay. The next part then is the income. Quite a lot of income coming in the month. The first one on the list is the Mumbles Skate Park Association, who provided £1,500, which is paying for the sealing of the surface of the skate park, which was recommended by Maverick. That work was due to take place yesterday and today, but was postponed due to the weather forecast. So hopefully it'll be happening in the near future. And also there's, towards the bottom of that list, there's some the income that came in for Mumbles Fest. So the gate receipt on the day was 3,226, which was made up of cash and debit and credit card payments. That's not all the income for it. There is the ticket sales which took place pre the event, but they didn't come in until the 3rd of July, so they'll be on next month's statement. The bank balances are also shown then, just over 314,000 held as at the 4th of July, and then the budget monitoring summary to the end of May. The detailed reports then will go to the detailed reports will go to the committees in July, but it shows just over 16% of the budget's been spent to date. So the two recommendations are that the payments made in June are retrospectively approved by council, and that the budget monitoring report to the 1st of May is also approved.
Okay. Harry, you want to ask something?
Yeah, I just have a question for Paul. It appears, is there some way we can get rid of this echo? According to this, environmental overspent by £5,000.
No, that's find it. It's underspent by £5,000 because of the an additional £5,000 because of the income that came in for the Jubilee.
Right.
So if you look at it, your budget is 43,500, but you can actually spend 48,000.
Right, I see. So minus is actually a positive.
It is where this income comes in.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Yeah, good. Yeah.
As a ballpark, being new to this, so as a ballpark, what's the difference between what we pay for Mumbles Fest and the total income, just ballpark figures? And has that stayed consistent over the years, or is it subject to kind of quite big differences each year?
The income is just over 9,000 this year. And the budget overall was just over 20,000.
Okay.
And there are still some invoices awaited from Swansea Council for tipping charges and for electricity usage. But at the moment, we're within about £100, £200 over the budget.
Right, brilliant.
So I think it's been a good year in terms of the budget at the moment, subject to those other invoices. The income does tend to fluctuate depending on the weather and the time of year.
Yeah.
If we have it in June and July and you have good weather, you tend to have good gate receipts. Last year was in September because obviously it had to be cancelled for the summer due to the weather, and it did drop off last year.
So approximately 50% of the total cost of our event we're covering through additional income.
No, the expenditure 28,000, and we're getting 9, so a third, just under a third.
And we wouldn't be able to make money on it, would we?
We did increase ticket prices this year. It's a public service, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. We probably wouldn't be allowed, would we?
You could.
Other places do, but I think almost like there's a whole different discussion. It's like what Paul is saying there. You know, we run it as a public service. Yeah. Like I sort of said in my report, it's for the community, isn't it? We could possibly look at it as an income generation thing, but I think we'd have to change the whole.
Yeah, I'm not.
No. But all I'm saying, we could. Potentially, I was thinking, I think they do it in step aside, I think, or Tenby Way, and they charge about 25 quid or something like that. They have bigger acts and stuff like that. But, you know, that would be a whole different discussion.
Just sort of answer Helen a bit on that as well. Yes, there are ways of making it a profit-making thing, but the outlays for that would be
cost as well.
4 or 5 times as much as well, because if you're going to have a headline act who's going to bring people who are going to be prepared to pay £40, £30, £40 a ticket just to cover that, then yes, you could. And I mean, you could charge traders more. We did put up our prices slightly this year, and they're still very, very competitive and cheap. They're aimed at, as Mark says, you know, so everybody can afford to come here and have a good day out. But yeah, there are ways of doing it, but I think it's just
I don't think we should do that.
I just think you change the whole feeling.
It will change the whole feeling, and we don't have the funding to do that unless we have major sponsorship.
As somebody who's not in the committee, it's helpful just having a head ballpark of the proportion that we're bringing in, just for running it.
Yeah, well, it's the only event we actually put on where we do get some income back from it.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Right. So is that all at the moment?
Just the 2 recommendations then, Chair, to vote on.
We've got 3 of them now.
No, let's come to the next one.
To approve, to retrospectively approve payments.
Yeah, payments for June 2024.
RF order June 2024. All those in favour? Thank you. And then to approve the budget monitoring report for May 2024. Favour? Great.
I'll take there's another report then that next Chair, so I'll go for that. budget timetable 25-26. You might think it's a bit early in the year to be start talking about the budget. It's not. It avoids those rushes from September through to December. It hopefully will save you having to have meetings in December as well, committee meetings. So what I agreed with Kerry when I discussed it earlier in the year was that we bring a budget timetable to council. It wasn't meant to go last month, but obviously because of the PEP, then it was delayed until this month. So what I've done is try to put a timetable together which will help the committees, and then you will be able to then hopefully agree your budgets in November, which will then be reported to council in January, and then we can submit our budget and precept to Swansea Council by the 31st of January, which will be the deadline. So in the report, which is on Teams, you've got key dates which I've identified. The first is the July 2024 committee meetings. So the ones in the next couple of weeks. What I think, there is an item on the agenda. I've asked Ian to include that. So what you think you probably need to do then is start looking at your budget for this year, and you'll find that in your budget monitoring reports. So that'll be there. Just to look at that, see how you think it's going, what you think should happen next year. Should those items be carried forward? Can there be cuts? Do you need more money? And what other budget proposals then do you think you should be putting forward for the 2025-26 committee budget? And if you do that at your July meetings, that will give you then the summer to come up with plans, come up with proposals, and then when you come back to your September and October committee meetings, you will have more information to sort of manage the budget, and then you will then be able to in November agree that budget. There's a couple of other dates I've included. One is the Personnel Committee. Under our financial regulations, the Personnel Committee has to review the employee budget before the 31st of October, and that's a date that's in financial regulations. And also budget proposal forms. So any new budget items or any significant increases in existing budgets should have a budget proposal form, and that's to be returned to me again by the 31st of October. And that's also a date in financial regs. What I'll do is I'll send that budget to all councillors in the next week or so, so you'll have those documents ready, and you can use those to start working up your any budget proposals.
That all sounds eminently sensible.
Yeah, and then as I say, November you can approve those. Committees can approve those budgets. The budgets are reported to council. You don't have to have any committee meetings in December if you don't want to. The other thing we've done we did last year and the year before was a budget scrutiny meeting, where council meets informally, and all new budget proposals are reported to council. And then whoever's putting those budgets forward can be asked questions then by other councillors. So when it comes to January's council meeting, everybody will be fully informed on what's included and what's being proposed. So I'm proposing to hold that on the 11th of December. So it's early enough before many Christmas festivities take place. So hopefully that would be acceptable. And then the final part of the process is a special council meeting in January to approve the precept of budget, which is then proposed to also sent to Swansea Council. And I suggested the 21st of January or the 28th of January. Personally, I'd prefer to go for the 21st because it does give us a little bit more time. 28th is quite close to the date. Well, it's not as close as 1 year when we did it on the 31st of January. So we were 3 hours before the deadline, I think. So that's the process for the budget. Hopefully, the committees will be able to work with it over the next few months. And my recommendation was that the budget 25-26 appears on each committee's agenda from July 2024 onwards. And I've taken the liberty of asking Ian obviously to put it on for July now because we didn't report last month. So that's the recommendation. Has anybody's got any questions on the process?
If not, then can I put that to the vote to be accept the recommendation? David, thank you. So then if I move on to the next point is report from the Chair of Finance and Compliance Committee.
There we are. I think the last meeting we had was a record. It was about 4 minutes long, wasn't it, Ian?
Wasn't it?
Or was it even shorter? 3.5 minutes. Only 3 of us turned up. Now, I know some people didn't get the summons and stuff like that, but there were some people who didn't send apologies. So just, if I can ask, if you aren't coming, please do send apologies, because we could have been in a position where there would only been 2 of us, and then it's a waste of those 2 people's time and Ian's for coming down the hill to open up specially for a meeting.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Chair, it was particularly short because most of the items were postponed because of the election.
Yeah. So, you know, the only things coming out of it were electric quotes, which was deferred for Gower Electric against CCS, re-establishing the policy working group, which is later on in the agenda, and we approved the grant to the West Cross Youth Club for the £5,000 for this part. It was, you know, I'm sure I can speak for Pam and Phil. Phil's not here. I think we all found the training that we went on about policy making really interesting, and it just shows what we are capable and the powers we can have once Kerry is Silca qualified, and how it opens up so much more to us as a council, what we're able to deliver. And I think the 3 of us would have found it really interesting, that that training session. But that's all to report from finance anyway.
Okay, any queries? If not, can we go on to Chair of Community and Social Committee, please?
Thank you, Chair. Last meeting was on the 19th of June. A number of items, or most of the items, were deferred. I'll list 1 or 2 of them. It was a selection of the Vice Chair that was deferred due to the fact that there wasn't a great deal in attendance at the meeting. The other one that we discussed was the Hennebont Gardens community asset transfer. That's an ongoing project. There were concerns raised about the ongoing costs and maintenance of that facility. I had been alerted to the fact that there was an underspend on the budget, which was £8,344, and we thought it may be a good idea if it went towards the gym equipment on the West Cross Promenade. But again, that was put forward, deferred, so it can be discussed by a greater number of councillors. Langland tennis courts, we touched on that. They have been jet washed. There's still a matter concerning the fencing, which is outstanding, but I have spoken with the RFO about that, and that's another ongoing matter. So that's it, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Any queries on that questions? If not, we'll go on to the report of the Chair of the Environmental Committee. Carrie?
Okay, yes. The good thing is that we went through all the outstanding actions and we were able to close most of them off. And those that are still outstanding are all in progress. It was agreed that signage for the bottle fillers, Norton Nature Reserve, and if sufficient funding for the slow worms in Fairwood Park will be prioritised out of the budget for civic amenities. We also hope to put signage at the entrances to Castle Woods for Norton Nature Reserve and the Community Orchard, and at Washing House Brook, but this will be done in conjunction with work on those paths. Both West Cross and Mumble City councillors have put in grant requests for work on those paths, so there is no point in us actually doing anything independently until we know whether there is potentially money coming through from Swansea Council to help with that work. A plea to all councillors, please promote the Buzz and Bloom 2024 competition. And if school governors could please make sure that their schools have been made aware of, I mean, I know they've all been made aware, but I know that emails, you know, come in so fast that it may not have actually registered with the head, that there is a schools category, and we hope that all schools will be entering for it. So if governors could please alert the heads for this opportunity and make sure that they put their applications in. And if they could also send the poster with all the information on out in their next school newsletters, so that parents know that they can nominate a garden or a community growing area for the awards. Ash has started working on Jubilee Gardens with obviously the grant that we have received. This is following the Bio Blitz that they did on the 4th of July, which identified a number of very beneficial species which will be nurtured and looked after, and Ash will be clearing all the less desirable species over the next few weeks.
There's probably some parallel joke one could make about the election years there.
Sorry?
Sorry, it's a bad joke.
Right. Following Sunny Khan's presentation to full council last month, Lydia has drafted the Big Climate Leap action plan, and we will be working on populating that at the July meeting. Lydia's report for June, I have asked Ian to put into the Teams folder, so you should have the report and Lydia's report. If I could just remind you of some important dates coming up. We have an environmental stall at the Underhill Family Day this coming Saturday, so do please come along and say hello. I believe it's Emily and myself who will be looking after that stall, so we'd be very grateful for anyone who comes along and supports us. The next volunteer day will be Thursday, July the 20th at Norton Nature Reserve. If any of you are available to come along and help to do some weeding, which is a very exciting thing to be doing. The next litter pick will be on Sunday, July the 27th, and it will be at the skate park in cooperation with Mumbles Skate Park Association. So hopefully we'll get lots of people down there and have a really good session clearing that part of the prom on that day. And there will also be a litter pick at Boars Pit on Thursday, August the 1st, which will be led by Rian, who is hoping that some of her neighbours will also join in and give that area a good tidy up. And finally, the next Mumbles Green Heroes event, which was going to be this Thursday, has now been deferred until Wednesday, July 24th, because there was nowhere available for it to be held this Thursday. So please, again, do come along. It's going to be an amazing talk by Gareth Richards from Gower Seal Group. So that should be a really good event. So I'm asking if you could all please, all the posts about these events are all on the MCC social media and the MCC environmental social media. So please, if you could all share them as widely as you can around your networks, just so that we can make sure that everybody knows about them and that we get a really good turnout. Thank you.
For that very comprehensive report, Gary. So if we go on to the report from the Chair of Culture, Tourism and Communication,
Cheryl has just messaged me, asked if I give it because she's on training. So basically, we just talk a little bit about Mumfest, and we have a debrief meeting about that tomorrow. We most of the actions couldn't be were postponed or deferred because of the election. There was, however, though, Ian, and it doesn't seem to be on the agenda, about the date for next year's Mumbles Fest, because we wanted to get that approved.
It's under the recommendations, isn't it?
That's what Andrew's just sent me anyway, so I apologise if...
Look under recommendations, but...
Have you got the date in your penciled in, right?
Yeah, June. 28th of June.
29th.
29th, was it?
Well, did Karen mention that with you when you met with her?
No, it's not, there's two culture ones on here, but it's not the date of Mumbles Fest.
Sorry about that, Roy. I don't know why.
Oh, was it not earlier? Or was it earlier than that? Did we go for the early date in June?
7th, I got.
7th of June, yes, the 7th of June.
I think it's just to bring it forward to for next month, so.
Because we can't put it because it's not on the agenda.
No.
I know it's frustrating, but if anybody puts it in their mental diary for now.
Are we able to do an emergency thing on that, bring it up off the floor and just vote on passing it emergency?
No, sorry, if it's not on the agenda, then. What does that mean? Quite sign off.
What's the point in getting a date if we can't vote on things, is there?
Well, the thing is, because we haven't got it on the agenda, it's good.
Yeah, but it was supposed to be on the agenda.
But like the whole sort of thing, but it's the thing is, it's not on the agenda. And like, if you know what I'm saying, people can put it in their mental note now, and we can ask people to keep that date clear. We're just going to have to go through the. I can have a look at maybe some sort of, you know, it will be quite.
Actually, Chair, I think from discussions with Kerry, she's intending holding a special meeting towards the end of the month.
Yeah.
July, which will pick up any July recommendations, so that can also be included in that.
Because what I'm sort of saying, we could probably get something in before August. Maybe if we're not going to have one in August, we can definitely see. And there's some other things in the pipeline, I think, that we might have to go before we go into August. But we can do that emergency one probably just online.
Just apologise for that, Rob. Should not be picked up.
Please say that. Okay. So is that it, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay, so have we got the recommendations from the committees?
Yes, Chair, there's it is item 13 on the agenda.
Yeah.
Mumbles Yacht Club grant application. Is this the one you've got to go with?
Oh, God.
Well, the fair.
It's going to roll.
February successful grant application for 650 plus VAT. The amended application for a further 750 plus VAT is sought for additional structural work to assist in transforming Mumbles Yacht Club into Mumbles Water Sports Centre. Discussion took place on the revised application, which concluded the creation of a new Mumbles Yacht Club Centre. All committee members were enthusiastic about the potential of such a project. The agenda had incorrectly shown 750 plus VAT and not 730 plus VAT, an additional amount requested. Recommended the amount of 730 plus VAT be granted to Mumbles Yacht Club. Any questions? If not, can I put it to the vote? All those in favour? Right. Finance and Compliance Committee. A discussion took place concerning the need to update policies within MCC Group, some of which are 10 years old. Councillor Townsend Jones volunteered to assist the clerk on a future working group, with Councillor Keaton also volunteered to assist. It was suggested that such an important group could be open to all councillors. Recommendation that the creation of a new policy working group be put on the agenda for June's full council meeting, with review recruiting councillors from across MCC.
Yeah, I can put my name down for that as well.
Yeah, well, it's not on the agenda, is it really?
No, but what this recommendation is looking for further
members.
Further members, okay, so it's recommended. So can I put that to the vote, and anybody interested, can I put the name forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to, please. Yeah.
Okay, well, can you message the clerk and Ian if you're interested?
Okay.
Let's go. We can ask Richard back in now.
Yeah.
Finance and Compliance Committee. West Cross Youth Club recommended that the year 2 payment of £5,000 to support the West Cross Youth Club, which was agreed in 2023-2024 as a 3-year grant, be payable over 3 financial years. Any questions? If not, can I put the grant to the vote? All those in favour? Okay, that's good. No Environmental Committee. Right. Culture Committee to carry forward the amount of £2,000 from underspent budgets to 2024 to 2025. Any queries? If not, can I put it to the vote? All those in favour? Yeah, that's passed. Then, last one then, the Essence of Mumbles, a photographic exploration, recommended that £500 be made from the Culture Committee budget towards the cost of project cost, anticipated in total to be 1,750, with the remainder being made up through councillors' individual
Sorry,
allowance.
Chair. Hello.
Yeah, Pam? You're frozen, Pam.
I thought all underspent were going into a general fund, not being allocated within the group itself.
What now, sorry?
Well, I thought all underspends were going to go to Paul, and he would tell us what was in the pot, and we could bid for it out of the pot. Not that it was just rolled around within the same committee's budget. Or have I got that wrong?
The way it works, or should work, is that a final outturn report will be coming to council. Unfortunately, I haven't done that yet. It will be up to council to agree any carry forward. Well, it'll be up to the committees to make recommendations on carry forwards, and then up to council to agree them. I think culture are just a little bit ahead of the game, but all committees will have that opportunity. Well, September that will be the first time.
Okay. Okay. So can I go back to the Essence of Mumbles? Any?
Sorry, no, can I just confirm that this is purely for individual committees to request that underspends from within their own budgets are retained within the committee?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so we will have the opportunity to do that within the at the September meeting.
Yeah, yes, that's correct, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
So can I go back to the Essence of Mumbles, which is for £500? Any queries? If not, can I put to the vote? All those in favour? Okay, let's go. So, right, we've gone through the recommendations. So then we've got the draft annual report, which is something we've got to prepare every year. You've got the draft annual report in your pack. I've had a look through it myself. Any queries, any questions? Yeah, that's wrong.
Mistakes, I saw.
Oh, obviously mistakes.
I'm apparently an oyster-mouth councillor, but I'm Newton.
Well, all mistakes like that, and can I encourage all councillors as well to do that? Could you email them to Ian and Kerry?
I emailed them to Kerry. She said to bring them up at the meeting.
Oh.
So, which is
I think what we need to do is approve the draft, subject to anything that which needs correction.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you bring it up now, that'll.
Okay, so Carrie first, and then Emily. Amelia, sorry. Sorry, Carrie.
Yeah, just a correction again that it refers to chairman's report where it should be chair's report.
I have brought that one up, to be honest. I brought it up a couple of times.
Thanks very much.
I don't like the term chairman myself. I really don't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's historical.
Amelia.
Hi there. When I was looking at it earlier, I'm down as Francesca.
Oh, hello.
So just
all these sort bearing in mind these things, as I sort of said, I picked up on the chairman thing as well. I haven't picked up on the thing. I looked at one of the councillors, but
Can I sort of mention on that, Chair? Councillor Hunter isn't included there.
Oh yeah,
No, that's right.
Yeah, so bearing in mind, in light of these draft recommendations, as a draft, bearing in mind these identified corrections, are we happy to okay the report? Okay.
Yes. I would just like to add, could we please congratulate Kerry on a fantastic report? She's done a huge amount of work on this, and I think it's excellent.
Yeah, she has done an excellent job on this, what we said. Okay, so that's it. And then the other point, then the next point is, and it bears relevance to the first point that we had coming into this meeting, is to consider correspondence for dot surveying concerning proposed electronic communication upgrade to Mumbles ATE Castle Avenue, Mumbles, Swansea. So this is just opposite there on the roof there. Has anybody had a chance to look at it? Anybody got any comments or anything, bearing in mind what we discussed earlier? This is 4G, no, this is 3G indeed.
4, I think.
Oh yeah, 4G, yeah. Sorry, it's 3G now, it's been upgraded to 4G.
Yeah.
Has anybody got any comments, observations in relation to this? It's already a facility that has been established for quite some time.
Yeah, I suppose we could make a recommendation not to sunbathe.
Nice barbecue, something like that. I really don't know what we can comment on this really, other than, we've seen it, thanks to.
It's good, Chair, that we've been notified. Yes. I think that's the important thing.
That's the point I was making in relation to this. We've been notified, and they are the progress. But also, I noticed quite interestingly, that they put it in to, if you look at page. Yeah, page, I think it's 5. No, it's more than that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Page 9. That they've put it into the policy context there about. Digital technology infrastructure, Swansea, that it fits into Swansea's local development. It's into what I was saying to the presentation that we had earlier. We have got these policy directives, and it might be interesting what the well-being of future generations take is on all this. So, unless, pardon? It's progress. Well, all I'm sort of saying, it's there are these policy directives, and as I sort of said, they've got it here that it is an integral part of the local development plan for Swansea. So, unless there's any particular comments on that, are we happy that it's been raised, and we're happy to acknowledge it?
Yep.
So, if that's the case, I'll thank you all for your time this evening, and thank you all for your contribution. I wish you a very nice evening, and we'll see you all. That's probably
Paul.
Yes, I'll stop.
Can I ask you to give me a quick call on something?